I want to talk about suicide for a minute because it's a very complicated topic, and I don't think people really think about it a lot. It's just a very iffy gray spot in most people's minds. And it's scary for a lot of reasons. Like, for example, what if your loved one killed themselves and you weren't expecting it? Like, what are you going to do then? A lot of people talk about how selfish suicide is, or how it's the worst action you can ever commit. I've heard a lot of that too. Now, is it really like that? I can't really agree with that because here's the thing: people word it as being selfish or terrible, but when I hear that, I feel like you're quitting, like you're giving up on something. But in order to give up on something, you had to consent to it in the first place. Like, let's say that you agreed, you promised to help someone with something, and then you back out on it. In that case, I'd say that you're a quitter. But in terms of life, we never agree to this. Like, there are so many complications with the human experience. Sure, there's a lot of good things, but there's a lot of bad ones as well. And there have to be bad things, because without the bad, how can you tell what the good is? How can you really experience the good? How can you know how great being full of great food is if you've never been hungry once? There has to be that contrast there, but it's too much for some people to take for whatever reason. Nobody asks for this, so it's not like you're really quitting out of something that you signed up for. And when someone does take their own life, I find it hard to really blame them. I mean, what position am I as just one random guy who doesn't really know what was going on in their head? Even if someone's your best friend, how much do you really know about their inner mind? How much do you really know about the thoughts that go through their mind? How much do you really know about the motivation for any action they do at all? So how are you able to judge someone? There have been instances in my past where I think I know a lot about someone, and one day they just pour stuff on me. I'm like, wow, I didn't know any of this at all. I think that that's that way for everybody. I think that everybody has things that they don't share with you. So to say that someone's selfish, or pretend that you know their motives, or to say that you do know what they were doing and you know it was wrong in their situation, I just find that very pretentious. Like, you know them. You don't know them. How can you really say anything about their life? I don't know. But on the other hand, and this isn't quite as common, but I have heard it before, and it's the idea that suicide is a good thing, and that we should be much more open about it. And the recent time I heard this was on Mr. Repzion's Facebook page, where he made a post saying that suicide is a very beautiful thing. And I can't agree with that, obviously. And here's why. The thing is, suicide is forever because it causes death, and obviously death is forever. If I die tomorrow, I'm not going to come back in a couple years and then just resume my life. I'm dead. And you're dead when you die. Everybody dies, and then they're dead. But when you're alive, from one day to the next, you can die at any time. So, well, how long we're going to be dead is pretty much infinite. The time that we're going to be alive depends on a lot of things, like whether you kill yourself or not. It's a pretty basic psychological element, and really a economic principle, that in life people are going to choose to have more of a good than less of a good, as long as it benefits them. And like I've said, there are a lot of bad things in life, but generally there are good things as well. A lot of good things, like people you could be encountering that could make your life better, or you could make their life better. You can have great emotional experiences from that. There are so many sensations you can experience, so many cultures to encounter, so many things that you can do. There are so many things that you can do in life, and I feel like when you're committing suicide, you're saying that you've experienced all that you can, or all that you're willing to, and you just don't think it's worth it. You know, I don't remember where this was from, so I probably can't reference it in any meaningful way, but I remember reading something about people who jump off the Golden Gate Bridge in an attempt to commit suicide. And apparently on that trip down, almost everybody, because they were interviewing people who survived the jump, and almost everybody who did jump eventually decided on the way down that all their problems could have been solved if they put enough effort and thought into it. Except the fact that they jumped off the bridge, because then they're already dead. You can't do anything about life once you're already dead. And that's the problem. It's so final. There's nothing about it, and you can't do anything about the problems. I don't think that suicide is bad or selfish or evil. I just think that a lot of times it's presumptuous in its own right. Saying what people did to commit suicide or why they did is presumptuous, but committing suicide is presumptuous as well. It's jumping the gun. It's saying, I've seen all there is, and there's nothing left. There's nothing that makes life worth living for me. And obviously there are instances of this. Like, I remember hearing another story a couple weeks back or so, in some European country. There were these twins who I believe were deaf, and they were going blind. And this made them very sad. They wouldn't be able to meaningfully interact with their loved ones, and eventually they decided to commit suicide. And in that instance, I can understand people doing it because it's like you can't really experience anything more at that point. However, in the majority of instances, like 99% of instances, I'd say people are just jumping the gun in that sense. Like, life would have a lot more to offer them. And in the end, they would profit from their existence if they just gave it enough time. I just feel like that's the problem. People are very quick to jump on it as a solution. And I don't mean people just do it all willy-nilly. Like, even when they have thought about it for a while, they haven't tried everything. They haven't done everything that they possibly can in an attempt to make themselves happy. Like I said, you can't judge someone, but just looking at the general scope of suicide, I think a lot of people who do it are very quick to do so. They don't really think about the actions or the consequences or what could be in life if they gave it a chance. And I guess that's all I'm saying. And if anybody's watching this and they do think they're a little suicidal and they're considering it, just try something crazy or something wild. If you're going to die anyway, what's the harm in trying? You might as well. You know, you could find something great, some new experience, or meet someone awesome, and that could make the difference. Or maybe you won't, and life will screw up and you'll just kill yourself. But you're already going to, so what's the harm? I guess what I'm saying is, if there's a chance to get better, don't quit. Or you don't have to quit. There's hope. That's my message. There's hope. Things can get better, so just cling on to that and do whatever it takes to make things better.